Imagine a man living a lackluster life until an unexpected encounter changes everything. John, a resident of a small town, rescues an abandoned dog during a rainy night, unaware that this simple act of kindness would transform his life in astonishing ways. Little did he know that Maximus, the dog he adopted, was the heir to a considerable fortune. This captivating story makes us reflect on the power of chance encounters and the changes they can bring. John, a man previously consumed by monotony and loneliness, finds in Maximus not just a friend, but a purpose in life. Amid thrilling challenges and moral dilemmas, he discovers that true wealth isn't found in money, but in the connections and love we share. Prepare for an emotional journey that blends drama, suspense, and touching moments. Explore how John's life transforms from the unexpected meeting with Maximus to the legal battles and new opportunities that arise. This is a story of redemption, love, and the search for truth, where each chapter unveils a new layer of emotion and discovery. Join John and Maximus on this adventure and discover how a simple gesture can change everything. John was a man who carried loneliness like an old, dusty coat. Living in a small town, his life had been reduced to a monotonous and dull routine. Every day he woke up at the same time, made his coffee, and walked to the corner bakery. The few words exchanged with acquaintances were always the same, and his heart seemed far from any emotion. John's life was devoid of excitement or surprises, only the weight of identical days. At night, he returned to his empty home, where silence was his sole companion. There was no family to wait for him, just the cold walls of his abode. His neighbors often whispered about John's solitude, but he never cared about it. The money he earned barely supported his boring days. Then, on a rainy night, something different happened. John found an abandoned, soaked, and shivering dog at the corner of his street. The scene was touching, and John, driven by a spontaneous decision, decided to take the dog home. At that moment, without realizing it, he took the first step toward changing his life forever. John's days were a reflection of his soul, gray and predictable. He followed an almost automatic schedule, waking up at 6 in the morning to make strong coffee, trying to spark some spirit. The routine continued with a leisurely walk to the bakery, where he bought his daily bread. This daily ritual seemed an effort to fill the emptiness he felt. John worked as an accountant, a respectable yet unexciting profession. His hours in the office were marked by the ticking of the clock, the sound of keyboards, and the low murmur of phone conversations. At the end of the workday, he returned to his home, where the silence was almost deafening. There was no family to enliven his evenings, just the echo of his own steps in the hallways. This routine seemed like a perpetual sentence, until the fateful encounter with the abandoned dog. The unexpected presence of the animal awakened something in John, a feeling he barely remembered having. The loneliness that enveloped him like a cloak began to dissipate, replaced by a new responsibility. The little dog, now named Max, brought with him a spark of life that John had long lost. On that rainy night, John could hardly believe what his eyes were seeing. A small, soaked dog was huddled near a post. John's heart tightened at the sight of the animal in such a state of abandonment. The puppy, with pleading eyes, seemed to be asking for help, and John felt a deep emotion that made him act immediately. He could not leave such a defenseless being to fend for itself. Without a second thought, John approached and spoke to the dog in a soft tone, trying to calm it. "Hey, buddy, you can't stay out here alone in this rain," he murmured as he reached out his hand. The dog, hesitant at first, finally accepted the gesture of kindness and let itself be picked up. John wrapped the animal in his jacket and, ignoring the pounding rain, took it home. The impulsive decision to help that dog would change the course of his life in a way he could never have predicted. As soon as they got home, John dried the puppy and made a comfortable place for it to sleep. The dog, which seemed exhausted and hungry, quickly fell asleep on an old towel John placed in the corner of the room. Watching the little animal, John felt a new and intense emotion. It was as if, suddenly, he had found a purpose. The night passed, and while the storm roared outside, inside John's house, the feeling of loneliness began to be replaced by a sense of companionship and warmth. John had not planned to bring a dog home, but the impulsive decision to rescue Max now seemed the most correct of his life. For the first time in years, he felt a spark of life reignite in his chest. Max, with his bright and grateful eyes, brought a new energy to the home. John cared for the dog with dedication, giving it food, baths, and a name. The connection between the two was immediate and touching. On their first morning together, John woke up early, but this time he did not feel the weight of his monotonous routine. Instead, he was greeted by Max, who wagged his tail with enthusiasm. This warm reception made John realize how empty his life had been until then. He found joy in small acts, such as taking Max for walks around the town, a place that suddenly seemed full of new possibilities and friendly faces. As the week progressed, the impulsive decision to adopt Max proved transformative. The dog not only brought companionship, but also a sense of responsibility and purpose that John had not felt in a long time. Max's presence in John's life was a catalyst for positive changes, and although the challenges were many, the emotional reward was immense. Thus, a new journey began for both, with the promise of many adventures ahead. The first days together were a period of mutual adaptation for John and Max. John, who was used to the silence and solitude, now had to deal with the constant and cheerful presence of the dog. Max, in turn, was getting used to his new home and routines. There was something exciting about the change, something that brought a new dynamic to John's life. He began to find pleasure in small things, like playing with Max in the backyard or watching the puppy peacefully fall asleep beside him. Max quickly adapted to his new home. He followed John around everywhere, proving to be loyal and affectionate. Surprised by Max's loyalty, John began to realize how lonely he had been before the dog's arrival. The previously cold and silent house was now full of life. Each bark, each movement of Max brought a new energy that transformed the environment and warmed John's heart. Max's presence was a constant reminder that he was no longer alone. As the days went by, the friendship between John and Max strengthened. They developed a routine that included long walks around the neighborhood, visits to the park, and relaxing moments at home. John even began to make new friends during the walks, people who were interested in Max and ended up getting to know John. It was moving to see how a simple dog could provoke so many positive changes. John's life was undoubtedly transforming in profound and exciting ways. Max's presence began to change John's routine in surprising ways. Previously accustomed to spending evenings watching TV alone, John now found himself engaged in outdoor activities. Walks with Max became a daily event, bringing freshness and vitality to the day-to-day. Each walk was an opportunity for John to connect with the local community, meeting new faces and sharing stories. John discovered that walks with Max also had a therapeutic effect. The morning and evening strolls provided not only physical exercise, but also moments of reflection and peace. The cheerful, energetic little dog inspired John to appreciate the small things in life. He began to notice the flowers in the park, the birds singing, and even the subtle changes of the seasons. This new perspective brought a sense of renewal and gratitude. Changes in routine also included small but significant adaptations at home. John became more concerned about Max's nutrition, researching the best food for dogs. He also reorganized his space to ensure that Max had a comfortable place to sleep and play. These activities, though simple, brought a new purpose to John's life. The relationship between them strengthened each day, and John felt that his life would never be the same without Max. As the days passed, John began to notice strange behaviors in Max. The dog seemed to possess an unusual intelligence, responding to complex commands and displaying skills that went beyond the ordinary. Max knew how to open doors, find hidden objects, and even seemed to understand John's emotions. These abilities left John intrigued and curious about the true origin of his new friend. One day, while playing in the park, Max demonstrated an astonishing talent by locating a toy buried in the sand, something that no other dog seemed capable of doing. John began to wonder if Max had received some special training before being abandoned. The dog's unusual skills were impressive and further endeared him to John. He felt a mix of pride and fascination, as if he had found a true treasure. These strange signs led John to consider a visit to the vet for a more detailed checkup. He wanted to better understand Max's past and ensure the dog was in good health. The decision to take Max to the vet was not just a matter of health, but also an attempt to unravel the mysteries surrounding the little dog. With this, John hoped to obtain answers that could explain Max's unusual behaviors and perhaps reveal more about his story. John finally decided to take Max to the vet, determined to uncover the mystery surrounding his four-legged friend. In the waiting room, as they awaited their turn, John watched Max interact with other animals and people. The dog demonstrated an unusual calmness and confidence, reinforcing the sense that there was something special about him. When they were called, John explained his observations about Max's strange behaviors to the vet. During the examination, the vet performed various tests and, during a routine scan, discovered something surprising: a microchip implanted in Max. This small device contained information that could reveal the dog's true identity. John was astonished by the discovery, and at the same time felt a wave of hope. Perhaps that tiny device could provide the answers he so desperately sought about his new companion. The vet explained to John how to proceed to access the information contained in the microchip. With a mix of anxiety and curiosity, John thanked the professional and took Max home. The discovery of the microchip opened a new chapter in their story, promising to reveal secrets that could change their lives. John could hardly wait to discover what the future held for him and Max. The revelation of the microchip was a turning point in the lives of John and Max. Following the vet's instructions, John was able to access the information contained in the device. To his surprise, the microchip revealed that Max belonged to a family from another city and had been registered under the original name of Maximus. Moreover, it included contact details of a lawyer responsible for the family's affairs. John felt a mix of apprehension and curiosity as he read this information. Without wasting any time, John decided to call the provided number. The lawyer, upon answering the call, seemed relieved and emotional to learn of Maximus's whereabouts. He explained to John that Maximus's family had been desperate for news of the dog, who had mysteriously disappeared months ago. The lawyer's voice conveyed a mix of gratitude and urgency, and he requested to meet with John as soon as possible to discuss the situation. John, although reluctant to lose his new friend, agreed to meet with the lawyer. The meeting was set for the next day, and John spent the night reflecting on the recent events. The revelation of Max's true identity brought a new dimension to his life, filled with uncertainties and potential twists. The prospect of discovering more about Maximus's past was exciting, yet it also left John apprehensive about what it might mean for their future. The next day, John and Max went to meet the lawyer, both anxious and nervous about what they might learn. The lawyer, a cordial man with a professional appearance, greeted them with a warm smile. During the conversation, he revealed details about Maximus's original family. They were people of significant influence and possessed considerable wealth. The family had been devastated by the dog's disappearance, as he was treated like a family member. The lawyer explained that Maximus had gone missing during a family trip, and all efforts to find him had been in vain. He mentioned that Maximus was the heir to a large sum of money, intended for his care and well-being. The revelation shocked John, who had never imagined that the dog he had rescued in the rain could have such an impressive background. Emotion filled the room as the lawyer described the deep connection between Maximus and his original family. At the end of the conversation, the lawyer expressed the family's desire to reunite with Maximus, but also recognized the special bond that John had developed with the dog. He proposed that John meet the family personally so they could discuss Maximus's future together. John accepted the invitation, aware that this decision could change his life. Maximus's story was just beginning to unfold, and John was determined to discover all the details. During the meeting with the lawyer, John was surprised to hear the complete story of Maximus. The lawyer explained that Maximus had been a gift to the couple's daughter Clara, who was battling a serious illness. Maximus brought joy and hope to the family during difficult times. The dog had become a symbol of resilience and love for everyone. Clara had a profound connection with Maximus, which helped her cope with daily challenges. Maximus's family was wealthy and influential, with a long tradition of philanthropy. The lawyer explained that before disappearing, Maximus had been included in the will of Clara's grandfather, who had left a large fortune for the care of the dog. This money was to ensure that Maximus was well cared for and had a comfortable life. The revelation was overwhelming for John, who could hardly believe the story he was hearing. He had never imagined that a simple dog could have such a profound impact on the lives of so many people. Moved by the story, John found himself in a moral dilemma. He knew that Maximus meant a lot to that family, especially to Clara. However, he also felt a strong connection to the dog, which had become a part of his life. The lawyer suggested that John reflect on the situation and consider all possibilities before making a final decision. Maximus's story brought up deep questions about love, loyalty, and the true meaning of family. John spent the entire night reflecting on the dilemma he now faced. Returning Maximus to his original family meant losing the friend who had brought so much joy and purpose to his life. However, keeping Maximus meant denying the family, especially young Clara, the chance to reunite with the dog they so dearly loved. It was a difficult decision, laden with conflicting emotions and moral responsibility. John knew that any choice he made would have profound consequences. As he walked with Maximus in the park, John pondered the implications of each decision. He thought about the joy the dog brought to Clara during her illness and the importance of Maximus to the family. But he also couldn't ignore the transformation Maximus had brought to his own life. The dog was not just a pet, but a companion who helped him rediscover the beauty of life and human connection. The emotion was overwhelming, and the decision painful. To make a more informed decision, John decided to visit Clara and her family, as suggested by the lawyer. He hoped that by meeting the girl and better understanding the bond between her and Maximus, he could make the right choice. The meeting promised to be emotional and revealing, and John was determined to face this challenge with an open heart. Maximus's future was at stake, and John knew he needed to act with wisdom and compassion. Determined to understand how Maximus ended up abandoned, John and the lawyer began a detailed investigation. They visited the last town where Clara's family had been before Maximus's disappearance. They spoke with local residents, distributed posters, and even offered rewards for information. With each new clue, the story of how Maximus had been lost began to take shape, revealing details that John had never imagined. The first indications pointed to a possible theft. Some witnesses remembered seeing a dog resembling Maximus being taken by a strange man on the night of the disappearance. This lead prompted John and the lawyer to explore new avenues, including a visit to a suspicious kennel on the outskirts of the town. The investigation was becoming increasingly complex and dangerous, but John was determined to uncover the truth. During the investigation, John realized how willing the local community was to help. People he had never met began offering information and support. This sense of unity and solidarity was moving and gave John the strength he needed to continue. Each new clue was a small victory, bringing them closer to understanding how Maximus ended up alone on that rainy night when John found him. The search for the truth was just beginning, and John knew there was still much to discover. As the investigation progressed, threats from people interested in Maximus's fortune began to emerge. John started receiving anonymous phone calls and threatening messages, warning him to give up the search. The situation became dangerous, and John realized he was dealing with individuals who would do anything to get the money meant for Maximus. These threats not only increased the tension, but also strengthened John's determination to protect the dog. John and the lawyer decided to take additional security measures. They became more cautious in their actions and avoided isolated places. John also started noticing suspicious people who seemed to be following his steps. The sense of danger was constant, and he knew he had to stay alert at all times. Despite the fear, John felt an immense responsibility to ensure Maximus was safe and out of the hands of these greedy individuals. On a particularly tense night, John realized that the only way to protect Maximus was to gain the support of the local community. He began sharing his story with neighbors and friends, explaining the situation and asking for help. The response was immediate and moving. The community rallied around John and Maximus, offering moral support and vigilance. This support renewed John's hope and gave him the courage needed to continue fighting against the threats they faced. With the support of the local community, John began to feel a safety net forming around him. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers mobilized to help in various ways. Some organized night patrols to ensure that no suspicious individuals approached John and Maximus, while others offered temporary shelter in case they needed to hide. The community demonstrated a strong spirit of solidarity and unity, creating a protective barrier against external threats. The story of John and Maximus quickly spread throughout the town. People of all ages and backgrounds were touched by the bond between the lonely man and the special dog. Children wanted to play with Maximus, while the elderly reminisced about their own pets. The commotion caused by the story brought new energy to the town, making everyone want to contribute in some way. This community mobilization not only offered protection, but also strengthened social bonds. Besides physical protection, emotional support was crucial for John. He felt that he was no longer alone in this battle, and that gave him the strength to continue. Old friends he hadn't seen in a long time reappeared, and new friendships blossomed. Lonely nights gave way to gatherings and conversations, where Maximus's presence was always a source of joy. The community, with its dedication and care, turned John's struggle into a collective cause, creating an environment of hope and courage. With the community's support strengthening his determination, John knew he needed to make tough decisions to protect Maximus. He and the lawyer began planning a legal strategy to ensure the dog's safety and permanently fend off the threats. John was determined to fight to the end, but he also knew that this battle would require personal sacrifices. The responsibility of caring for Maximus now came with even greater challenges. One of the first decisions was to reinforce the security of his home. John installed surveillance cameras and reinforced doors and windows, transforming his home into a true refuge. He also avoided predictable routines and sought to be more discreet in his daily activities. Maximus, always by his side, seemed to understand the gravity of the situation and became even more protective. The bond between the two grew stronger with each obstacle they faced. However, the hardest decision was accepting that, to protect Maximus, it might be necessary to temporarily entrust his care to someone trustworthy. John knew that the legal battle for Maximus's custody would be intense and that during this period, the dog might be safer out of reach of the threats. The community offered to help, but John still needed to choose the best option. This painful and emotional decision was crucial to ensuring a secure future for Maximus. With the decision made to fight for Maximus's custody, John and the lawyer began preparing for the upcoming legal battle. The lawyer gathered documents, testimonies, and all necessary evidence to build a solid case. John spent hours reviewing every detail, determined to present the best possible defense. He knew that the courtroom battle would be intense, and that he needed to be prepared for any eventuality. To strengthen his case, John gathered testimonies from neighbors and friends who witnessed the positive transformation Maximus brought to his life. They spoke about how John, once a lonely man, now had a renewed purpose and was deeply connected to the dog. These stories were moving and demonstrated the strong bond between John and Maximus. The lawyer believed that these testimonies could sway the judge and influence the final decision. In addition to documents and testimonies, The lawyer advised John to be emotionally prepared for the trial. John knew he would need to remain calm and composed, even in the face of tough questions and possible attacks. With the community by his side and Maximus's unwavering support, John felt stronger and more confident. The legal battle was imminent, but he was determined to fight for the right to keep Maximus by his side. On the day of the trial, the courtroom was packed. The tension was palpable as everyone awaited the start of the proceedings. John, accompanied by Maximus and his lawyer, was preparing to face the court. The first sessions were dedicated to presenting documents and testimonies. With each new testimony, the emotional connection between John and Maximus became more evident. However, the most surprising moment came when new evidence began to emerge. During the testimony of Clara's family lawyer, new information was revealed. He presented a detailed report about the circumstances of Maximus's disappearance. This report included witnesses who saw Maximus being taken by suspicious individuals, corroborating the theory that the dog had been stolen. The revelation of this evidence changed the dynamics of the trial, casting new light on the case and reinforcing John's position. The climax came when one of the defense witnesses, a private investigator hired by the family, presented a security video that clearly showed Maximus being rescued by John during the rainy night. This video, along with the emotional testimonies from the community and the presented evidence, formed a complete picture of the situation. The courtroom was taken by a moving silence as everyone absorbed the depth of the revelations. John felt that the truth was finally coming to light, and with it, a new hope for justice. When it was John's turn to testify, the courtroom was silent, waiting for his words. He began by describing his life before Maximus, a lonely and purposeless existence. John spoke about the rainy night he found the dog, how that impulsive decision to rescue the animal transformed his life. Each word carried the sincerity and emotion of someone who had found a true friend in Maximus. John detailed the deep connection he had developed with Maximus. He talked about the small, day-to-day moments, like walks in the park, shared evenings, and the joy the dog brought to his life. The emotion in his voice was palpable, and many in the courtroom were moved by his account. He explained that Maximus was not just a dog, but an essential part of his family, someone who gave him a new sense of living. Finally, John expressed his moral dilemma. He understood the importance of Maximus to Clara's family, and felt empathy for the girl and her parents. However, he also knew that Maximus now held a special place in his life, and that separation would be painful for both. With tears in his eyes, John asked the judge to consider Maximus's well-being and the strong bond they had created. His sincerity and emotion left a deep impression on all present, making it clear how crucial the court's decision was. After hearing all the testimonies and reviewing the evidence, the judge withdrew to deliberate. The courtroom was filled with anticipation and apprehension. John felt his heart racing, while Maximus by his side seemed to sense the tension in the air. After some time, the judge returned, bringing with him the final decision. Everyone held their breath as the verdict was read. The judge acknowledged the importance of Maximus to both parties involved. He highlighted the positive transformation that the dog had brought to John's life and the deep emotional connection that had developed between them. At the same time, he mentioned the pain and concern of Clara's family, who also considered Maximus a beloved member. After careful consideration, the judge decided in favor of John, granting him the permanent custody of Maximus. The decision was met with tears of joy by John and emotional applause from the community present in the courtroom. The judge emphasized that Maximus should continue receiving the care and love that John had demonstrated. He also suggested that John and Clara's family keep in touch, allowing Clara to occasionally visit Maximus. This solution brought relief to all involved, creating a sense of justice and unity. With the verdict finalized, John and Maximus began to adapt to the new reality as heirs to a fortune. The first notable change was the sense of security and financial stability. John, who had always lived modestly, now had the resources to provide a comfortable life for both. He began making plans to improve his home and ensure that Maximus had everything he needed to be happy and healthy. The adaptation was not only material, but also emotional. John, accustomed to a lonely life, now found himself in the spotlight and surrounded by new opportunities. He felt a renewed sense of purpose and gratitude, knowing that Maximus's presence had transformed his life in profound ways. Maximus, for his part, seemed more content and secure, aware of the love and care he received. The bond between the two strengthened each day, creating an unbreakable connection. Furthermore, John began to explore ways to use the inherited fortune to make a positive impact. Inspired by his own story of rescuing Maximus, he decided to invest in charity projects that helped abandoned animals. John established a foundation that provided shelter, veterinary care, and adoption programs for homeless dogs and cats. This initiative not only honored the memory of how Maximus came into his life, but also gave John a new purpose, filling his life with meaning and joy. With the resources from the inherited fortune, John began implementing his charity projects with great enthusiasm. He founded an NGO dedicated to rescuing and caring for abandoned animals, called Home of Maximus. The community, already touched by John and Maximus's story, became actively involved, contributing donations and volunteering. The NGO quickly became a reference point for all those wishing to help animals in need. John established partnerships with veterinarians and animal behavior experts to ensure that each rescued animal received the best care. He also created educational programs to raise awareness about the importance of responsible adoption and animal welfare. The adoption campaigns organized by the NGO were exciting events where many families found new furry members to love. The joy in the eyes of the children and the rescued animals was the most rewarding reward for John. In addition to rescues and adoptions, John used part of the fortune to build a large shelter equipped with all the necessary amenities for the animals. The shelter had play areas, medical care, and comfortable spaces for the animals to recover and wait for a new home. John, always alongside Maximus, dedicated his time and energy to ensure that each animal found the happiness and love that Maximus brought to his life. The positive impact of his projects was undeniable and deeply moving. Through his charity projects and the new routine with Maximus, John experienced a profound personal renewal. He became a respected and beloved figure in the community, known not only for his kindness, but also for his determination to do good. John rediscovered the joy of living, finding a purpose that went beyond any material wealth. Working with animals and constantly interacting with supportive people brought new energy to his life. John also began to take better care of himself, something he had neglected for many years. He adopted healthy habits, such as regular exercise and following a balanced diet, inspired by the need to be in shape to care for Maximus and the other animals in the shelter. The daily walks with Maximus became a source of pleasure and meditation, allowing John to reflect on his journey and the future he wanted to build. Maximus continued to be a constant source of joy and comfort for John. He felt grateful for every moment shared with the dog that had changed his life. He looked to the future with optimism and determination, knowing that together, he and Maximus could continue to make a difference. The community's support and the success of his charity projects reinforced his sense of accomplishment. John had found not just a new life, but also a lasting purpose that brought him true happiness. The future for John and Maximus seemed brighter than ever. John continued to expand his charity initiatives, transforming the lives of countless animals and people. He founded new branches of Home of Maximus in other cities, spreading the message of compassion and responsible care. Each new shelter was a tribute to the journey he and Maximus shared, symbolizing the hope and second chance that everyone deserves. John also maintained the bond with Clara's family. They became close friends, and Clara frequently visited Maximus, finding comfort and joy in the dog's company. The visits were moments of celebration and gratitude, reinforcing the importance of love and community. The story of John and Maximus, which began with an unexpected encounter, had created bonds that united different families and individuals around a common goal. In the epilogue of their lives, John and Maximus enjoyed a promising future filled with achievements. John looked back with pride and emotion, knowing that every difficult decision, every challenge faced, had led them to a place of peace and happiness. Their story was proof that, even in the most adverse circumstances, kindness and determination can transform lives in unimaginable ways. John and Maximus together had found not just a new home, but a new life full of meaning and love. Did you enjoy today's story? Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and hit the bell to not miss our upcoming stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.